Voruna is one of the Warframes that has been forgotten in time, but this new augment mod refreshes her, and this video that you're watching right now refreshes her build. So we have survivability, we have nuking, we have damage, statuses, invisibility, everything you possibly need. So let's quickly get into the video. Voruna is one of the most interesting Warframes, starting off with her passive, which we actually have 4. Now, each 4 of these correspond to her abilities, so once I get to the abilities, I'll explain the passive at the end. One thing that I want you guys to keep in mind, you can only have 1 active, and you can actually see it above your abilities in the bottom right hand corner. That is which one is active at the moment. So, starting off with her first ability, Shroud of Dynar. I'm gonna butcher these names, so I'm sorry about this, but what happens here is you go invisible, you're gonna get a little increase in speed, get an increase in critical damage and status chance, you also inflict bleed, and you give vulnerability on those enemies as well. This ability is very good for survivability as well as doing damage, and holding down this ability or selecting it as your passive is going to increase your parkour velocity. Now, what is going to increase your damage even more is the newest augment mod, Prey of Dynar. This increases the damage vulnerability on enemies, and using Fangs of Raksh, which we'll explain a little bit, increases the damage spread radius by a certain percentage as well. So using Fangs of Raksh on that enemy that has already been attacked with your first ability is going to increase and spread this radius even more of vulnerability, so that's very nice. So covering Fangs of Raksh, tapping this ability lunges you forward, you apply basically instant 10 stacks of 5 random status effects, so this is going to be very good. I usually jump on an enemy 2 times just so I apply as many as I possibly can. You do have an invulnerability period here as well. One of the things that's gonna save this Warframe a lot is not needing rolling guard, so keep that in mind. Now, the good thing about this is, as you saw earlier, priming enemies with this is going to be much better because you're going to spread that vulnerability to even more enemies. And holding down this ability and getting the passive is basically free adaptation. This is the one that I use in 90% of my gameplay. Now, Lycath's Hunt is her third ability. Mailing enemies gives you health orbs. If you headshot enemies, it gives you energy orbs. Now, you can increase the duration by killing enemies that are affected by 5 or more status effects, and using this as your passive, you have increased heavy attack efficiency, which is, in my opinion, completely useless. Now, this ability is almost always going to be active because you're always going to be killing, and you're always going to have energy and health orbs, especially with the build. And her fourth ability, Ulfrun's Descent. You go down on all 4, you have 5 charges, and you attack enemies. The more enemies you attack and kill, the higher your combo goes. Killing enemies that are affected by statuses is going to double the damage, so that's very good of the remaining charges, that is, and they also deal slash damage. Now, holding this down, the passive of this is if you receive fatal damage, Ulfrun dies instead of you, so that's pretty cool. This can be used sort of to escape death, but it does have a 60-second cooldown. Now, what this also has is Ulfrun's Endurance. Now, during Ulfrun's attack, enemies that die from bleed in a certain radius will refresh the charges. This will keep us inside fourth ability for the longest time, allowing us to kill as many enemies as possible. We're spending all of our gameplay inside of our fourth ability, and that is the beauty of this build. Now, what is the actual build? Well, this is what it looks like. In the ore slot, we have Growing Power, we have Umbral Vitality, Prey of Dynar, Prime Continuity, Overextended, Blind Rage, Equilibrium, Ulfrun's Endurance, Umbral Intensify. We also have Arcane Aegis for a little bit of security, Molt Augmented for power strength, and Cunning Drift for range. Considering you're not going to get knocked down in her fourth ability, there is an alternative build that you can use, and this is with Nourish, and this is what the build looks like. Now, the only downside of this build that I found out is that survivability can be a really big issue. You do gain sort of double energy through Lycath's Hunt and also Nourish, but Nourish is very good because of the damage that you deal. Now, sadly you don't have your fourth, but you have your melee weapon, which is the only weapon that you will need. I'll get to it in a little bit, but the Archon Shards. We have 1 Tau Forged red and normal red for a total of 25% power strength. We have 2 Tau Forged blues, each of them giving me 75 energy, and then 1 yellow one giving me 37.5% casting speed. Through our focus school, we're gonna gain even more casting speed through power transfer, and we're gonna gain power strength through sling strength. So that's going to be very nice. Now the melee weapon of choice is the Harmony. Harmony is the best combination for this Warframe. Either or build that you use, it doesn't really matter. It's just a really good weapon to have. The build is up on screen right now, and I highly recommend you use this weapon. If you don't have it, get any other really good melee weapon. You don't necessarily need weapons with this Warframe build because you're going to be killing acolytes, enemies, everything sort of with your fourth ability. So use whatever weapons you possibly want to. The companion is not something that I would recommend you use randomly. I would recommend Nautalius. Nautalius is extremely good with crowd controlling enemies. The build up on screen right now, and he is very good at helping out with shields because sometimes you can get a little bit too vulnerable, so keep that in mind, but he helps out with that tremendously. Now, how are we going to be using our beautiful Voruna? Having our third active Lycath Scunt all of the time is going to be incredibly good. What you do is activate your first ability, you go and attack an enemy with your second ability, Fangs of Raksh, and you attack and activate your fourth ability, and then just attack enemies, spread statuses, spread bleed, attack enemies, and keep in mind and always keep an eye on Shroud of Dynar, your first ability. So that is going to be pretty much always active as well, and you're going to try to keep it active as much as you possibly can. So use your fourth as much as you love, use your second ability as much as you want, and everything pretty much dies without any issues. Now, that is all that I have to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. Voruna is a very interesting Warframe, haven't played her in a while, and this augment really freshes her up. I'm very interested in what you guys think. Put it in the comment section down below, and also do leave a like and subscribe for more content. There's plenty more videos coming towards you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.